do. Thank you.
Good afternoon. This work session will now come to order. If council members could turn to page 1, Bill 46-17. If I could call up our Director, Department of Planning, Ms. Andrea Van Arsdale. Page 1, Bill 46-17. And good afternoon, Ms. Van Arsdale.
Hello, sir, members of the County Council. The administration is requesting a supplemental appropriation of $235, to support 10 scattered site apartment units for homeless women and families with at least one disabled member. These funds were previously granted to Interim Housing Corporation by HUD, but Interim has ceased operations. St. Vincent de Paul has been selected as the nonprofit organization to provide case management and services for clients and assist with rental costs.
Any questions or comments from the council? Councilwoman Allman?
Hi, Ms. Van Arsdale. Did you say Interim has ceased
Yes.
operations? Okay. Thank you.
As of June 30th, I'm sorry, this is Colleen Mahoney. She's the person that actually runs the group that deals with these issues.
Thank you.
Actually, she's the expert.
There you go. Are there any other questions or comments from the County Council? All right, nice and easy. Thank you, Ms. Van Arsdale. All right, next I'd like to call up our Director, Department of Public Works, Mr. Steve Walsh. Council could turn to page 9, Fiscal Matter 1. Fiscal Matter 1, page 9. Good afternoon, Mr. Walsh.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. The administration is requesting approval of a contract with DIW Group Incorporated, trading as specialized engineering, to provide construction material testing services on an as-needed basis, and this is in support of the county's capital construction program. The contract commences upon council approval, continues through September 16, 2019, and will automatically renew for 2 additional one-year periods. Compensation may not exceed $57,500 for the entire 4-year term, including the renewal periods. And the contract was awarded as a piggyback of a competitively bid state highway contract, which gives us great value in that the volume of tests through their contract is much larger, so we get the economy of scale with this contract.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Walsh? All right, well, thank you very much. All right, next, council could turn to page 11, Fiscal Matter 2. Call Mr. Kevin Reed, Department of Health and Human Services. Fiscal Matter 2, page 11. And good afternoon, Mr. Reed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and council members. Fiscal Matter 2 is a request to approve a second amendment to a contract with Homeland Security and Management Solutions, doing business as Donald Corporation, to continue to provide on-site interpretation and sign language services to assist deaf and non-English speaking clients in our various health programs. This is a second amendment, and it increases the maximum amount of this and similar contracts by $300,000 from $550,000 to $850,000 over the course of the entire term. Costs have risen in our health programs mainly due to 2 reasons. 1, the increase in non-English speaking individuals who come into our doors, and 2, the greater complexity of medical screening that requires an on-site interpreter during home or medical appointments, such as with our dental program, our adult evaluation review services, cancer programs, and tuberculosis. These are longer, in-depth appointments and where complex medical information is exchanged where an interpreter is needed. It's a county-wide contract, and we are currently in the 3rd year of this contract.
Questions or comments from the council? Any questions or comments? All righty. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. County Council would turn to page 14. If we could call up Ms. Deborah Richardson, Director, Department of Corrections. And we'll do Fiscal Matter 3, then we'll do Fiscal Matter 6 if there's no questions on 3. And good afternoon, Ms. Richardson. Page 14.
Good afternoon, members of the council. The administration is requesting approval of a contract with PAC Industries Incorporated to provide preventive maintenance and on-call repair services for laundry equipment in the detention center, animal shelter, career fire stations, and homeless shelters. The contract commences October the 30th, 2017, continues for 1 year, and will automatically renew for 4 additional one-year periods, with the option to further extend the initial term or any renewal term in additional 120 days. The contract does not specify a maximum compensation for the initial one-year term. Compensation may not exceed $210,160 for an entire 5-year and 4-month term, including the renewal and extension periods.
Questions or comments from the council on fiscal matter 3? All right, Ms. Richardson, so why don't we do fiscal matter 6, and given that this was issued to the council, if you could also cover in detail the auditor's questions as well on fiscal matter 6.
Okay. The administration is requesting approval of a contract with Prime Care Medical Incorporation to provide health care services for inmates at the Baltimore County Detention Center. The contract commences September the 15th, 2017, continues for 3 years, and will automatically renew for 3 additional 2-year periods, with the option to further extend the initial term or any renewal term an additional 180 days. The contract provides for compensation of $874,363 per month and $4.24 per inmate per day for any inmate population in excess of 1,400, and this excludes the home detention inmates. Estimated compensation totals $33,077,143 for the initial 3-year term and $115,694,605 for the entire 9-year and 6-month term, including the renewal and extension periods. Compensation may not exceed the amount of funds appropriated for these services for the entire contract. The question is asked, one was, why didn't the current contractor bid on the contract? The current contract name has changed, so they did bid. It was ConMed, and now it's Correct Care Services.
So just a name change on that?
Yeah, just a name change.
Then why was there a significant increase, going from 6.8 million for the existing up to 10.5 million? What was the difference? A pretty significant increase.
Part of it is a significant increase in the population. When we initiated this contract, approximately 25% of our inmates were mentally ill. Currently, approximately 50% are mentally ill.
Really?
Yes, and so
In what time period was that, from when to when?
From when ConMed came on, so we're talking about in the last 8 years,
Wow.
10 to 8 years,
Really?
yes.
That's a gigantic
Surprising.
change.
It's just across the board, nationally, that has occurred.
Wow.
When we look at mental health and the way we used to deal with mental health historically, many people with mental health were in institutions. And now what happens is that we're not placing them in institutions, and we're keeping them in the least restrictive areas. So many folks with mental health illnesses who used to be institutionalized are now on the street. So therefore, if they get arrested, now they are in our prisons, now jails. So we have a definite increase in mental health. In addition to that, if I just may add, there's an increase in our chronic diseases. So we know that we have an increase in diabetes, coronary artery disease, and HIV. And there's a significant increase in diabetes in our young prisoners. In addition to that, we've had not an increase in the number of women pregnant, but an increase in the complications. And so therefore, we have to deal with that issue so we can actually keep the fetus very, very healthy.
And I'm sure other council members might have questions. We'll come back to a couple of questions, but also the last auditor question, and maybe best asked to Mr. Hillman perhaps, is just the the funding associated with this contract, and, is there any issue with spending affordability guidelines or anything else? That was the third question that may be best to address for Mr. Homan on the fiscal 18 appropriation.
We fully understand. We need to do this, and we're only 2 months into the fiscal year, so we fully intend to work this out by the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. Other questions, Councilman Couch?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the state legislature, along with Senator Nathan Pulliam, we both were very concerned about the population of our prisons upon release, whether or not the services that were being received while the individual was incarcerated were continued. For instance, hepatitis C, because I know that treatment has changed, whether there's an issue of mental illness, because if you don't resolve some of those problems, you'll see the high recidivism rate. So can you tell us what provisions have been made to continue some of these services that will help the person to not commit a crime again?
If you like.
So when we're working, the health department works very, very closely with corrections. And so we do, and we have instituted programs to be able to assist with that. And within this particular contract, we clearly put some certain things in it specific for that. So let's talk about mental health and substance abuse, which are two huge behavioral health issues. We started a pilot program where we have peer recovery specialists who actually follow the mentally ill inmate once they leave the institution. We follow them while they're in the institution, and then once they leave. And our goal is to be able to have them be more compliant with treatment, to be able to help them go to their doctors, to their day programs, and if they are hired or functioning, to assist them getting jobs and things like that. Even down to the small thing of trying to get them their documentations like IDs and stuff like that. When it comes to substance abuse, we're going to institute what we call a Vivitrol program, so that what would happen is the fact that the correctional institution would link up with the community providers, and when someone leaves, if they are interested in having a substance abuse issue, they would get a dose of Vivitrol, which actually stays in their system for a month. And then what would happen, the fact that irrespective of how much drugs that they would take, they wouldn't get high at all because they have the Vivitrol in their system. And then they would go to an outpatient provider, and then that person would be given also the shot every 30 days. So we have seen that other jurisdictions have used that, and it's actually been very, very beneficial.
Does the system assist the individual in enrolling in Medicaid?
Yes. But on my other hand,
Okay.
social services.
Right.
In social services, we actually work with the inmates while they're in to be able to get them their Medicaid benefits prior to release, because on the day that they're released, we want them to be able to go see a doctor or get their medications and things like that. So we're actually assisting them prior to their release. So when we know they're going to be released in approximately a couple of weeks, we work on that for them.
Do you have any idea what % of those released actually do avail themselves of these continued services?
I cannot tell you the exact percentage of all of them.
Sure.
I can tell you that we're initially, in the past now 4 months, we've had excellent success with that with our peer recovery program. So we know that when we link them up with a peer, and that person is helping them get transportation and helping them to get to those providers, it's actually being much, much more beneficial than if they did not have a peer at all.
Okay. That sounds good. Thank you.
Councilman Crandall?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is more out of, I guess, curiosity than anything. I was reading through the fiscal analysis, and one of the bullet points is part of the this multi-million-dollar program is implementing a detox program within the corrections facility. Does that mean that are we administering methadone or Suboxone in the detention center, or are we centering on the Vivitrol program, or so what are we doing with, especially with the opioid crisis?
It depends on who's coming in and what their issues are. But yes, we would give methadone, and we would give buprenorphine, and we would give Vivitrol depending on who the person is. For example, if a woman comes in who's a substance abuser who's pregnant, she has to get some type of narcotic. If we do not give her that narcotic, then the fetus will probably not survive. So that person will have to be on some type of opioid or methadone in that sense. If a person has a mental health illness, coronary disease, or what we call high risk, and they're coming in and they're a substance abuser, that person then would be treated in a detox program. They're not going to be treated for the entire time that they're there. But we've got to treat them in a detox program, because if they have coronary disease, what we see is the fact that that person is at a high risk and has had a heart attack if they're not treated. Or if a person has a mental health disorder, then they're going to be at much, much higher risk of trying to commit suicide if we don't treat them. So we're going to have to treat them initially and then taper them down and then continue on with the counseling. And then once they are discharged, hopefully we can follow them up with a community services.
Thanks, Dr. Branch. And just, again, this is outside of this fiscal matter, but, I think we were both in attendance at the Maryland Association of Counties, the session that dealt with the opioid crisis. And I would just like to get your professional opinion on the efficacy of methadone as a treatment. We, as the council, the members and I discuss this quite often, and we do have questions about the efficacy of methadone, and you're our guy, so what's your professional opinion on it?
So understand and remember that substance abuse, substance use, and addiction is a disease. All of the studies for methadone, if they're used correctly, if the methadone is used correctly and in collaboration with the counseling, it is an excellent program. It's very effective. But if the methadone program is not utilizing it effectively, as in anything else in medicine, it's not going to be very, very effective.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Branch.
Yeah, I have a question on the contract itself. It's commencing September 15th. It continues for 3 years, automatically renews for 3 additional 2-year periods with the option to further extend. But it looks like after those 3 years, if for whatever reason we're not satisfied or we think we can do better elsewhere, then we just simply provide a notice of non-renewal and then we can stop it after 3 years. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but we're in for 3 years, no matter what, on this amount. I mean, we're obligated for 3 years, but then we can get out. In other words, we're not going to be stuck for 9 years if for whatever reason we want to go in a different direction. We can non-renew after 3.
No, we're not, sir, but I think both Ms. Richardson and Dr. Branch could tell you that the committee that reviewed these presentations were unanimous in their support for this medical provider.
And I saw this competitive procurement process and really well done, so I just want to double check. Any other questions from the council on this issue? It's a big appropriation. All righty. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, if the council could turn to page 6, that's Bill 48-17. Councilman Katz with your RC8 issue.
Yes, this is, the RC8 zoning classification was introduced by former Councilman McIntyre many years ago, and a constituent brought to my attention the 2 gaps in the RC8, and that is that under the current law, it's 0 to 10 acres, one lot, and then 11 to 30, two lots, and then 31 to 50. Well, anyhow, the problem is there are gaps in it. So from 30 to 31, from 10 to 11. So all I've done in this bill is fill in those gaps. You'll see the word greater, you'll see 1 to 10, and then greater than 10 to, that's all it does.
Easy.
That's all it does, and as I said, somebody brought that to my attention, and I did ask Mr. Lippincott and planning for a list of how many properties are, let's say, above 50 acres that are zone RC 8, and it's 33, and then I asked for the largest 3 properties. The largest one is 152 acres, and then 125, and I can't remember the third one, but they're not very large properties. Now, I understand the administration has an amendment that I don't even understand why we need an amendment. All I'm doing is filling in a gap, and so I don't know if anyone's here from the administration to explain what the change that.
Mr. Bostwick?
I think that amendment is because if you have, even with your bill, the way it's currently written, if you have over 50 acres, the density is 0.02 lots per acre.
Yes.
Which would actually, I think, be one house. So, in effect, you have one house if you have more than 50 acres, but if you have 30 to 50, you have 3. And so, I think what Mr. Moxley pointed out was wondering if you meant to say if you have greater than 50, you get the 3 houses that you would get in the 30 to 50, plus your density would then be 0.02 lot per acre in addition to the 3.
I understand. Yeah, I understand, though, that the way that the Department of the way it's interpreted is not the way that the administration is concerned about. Yeah, I totally understand. If it's up to 50 acres, it's 3 lots. Above 50, it could go back to 1. And that's not how it's been interpreted. And let me just remind everybody, we're talking about in a tier that only allows 3 houses and 3 lots in the first place. So I don't even think the last part of it is of much significance because we are limited to 3 lots. So, I just don't see any purpose to adding the 30 plus. I mean, 3 plus, not 30, 3 plus, so.
Any other comments, Mr. Bostwick, Mr. Pettigord? I think we're in the legal speak world right now.
No, we'll work it out.
All righty. Any questions or comments from any of the council members for Councilman Couch? All righty, moving on. Page 7, Bill 50-17. And thank you, Councilman Jones, for co-sponsoring this. And basically, Bill 50-17 would authorize certain beneficiaries receiving a pension from the employees' retirement system to continue to receive their pension under certain circumstances if employed by the county as a part-time employee with a public safety agency or in a public safety role. And this bill is just basically designed, we have several dozen retirees from Baltimore County that have retired, that we have reemployed. They're receiving an hourly wage, but they're not accruing any additional pension liability. So this bill, to me, saves taxpayer money. It's good public policy. Councilman Jones, I don't know if you have anything to say.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that in addition to everything you said, these employees fill a void in many cases where there is a gap. Everybody knows we've been having some issues with the detention center in terms of upstaffing, And it's good and beneficial to the county to be able to have employees that have retired, that have the experience, that have the training, that have the knowledge, and we're able to bring them back on an as-needed basis to fill that void and give much-needed relief to the detention officers that are there. In other cases, we use police officers where we would be hiring civilian positions and move police officers out of those positions and put them back on the road where they can utilize their great deal of experience in training and knowledge. And instead of just finding a civilian to do the job, we found it very beneficial to be able to offer those jobs on a temporary basis, on a part-time basis to retired police officers. So I'm very in support of the bill. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Jones. Councilman Katz?
Yeah, I have no problem with the bill at all, but I do have a question for the chairman or the other. If this bill passes and the other bill regarding retirements, let's say, fails, is there any, do we create any problem there? I mean, have we created, there's no conflict then with one passing and one failing?
No, sir.
Okay.
There's no overlap.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments from the council? We do have two other fiscal matters. So if we could turn to page 16 and do fiscal matter 4. And if I could call Matthew Lawrence from the police department to do fiscal matter 4. Page 16 for the council. Skipping around here today. Good afternoon, Mr. Lawrence.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Regarding fiscal matter number 4, we're seeking approval for a contract with Miller Environmental Group. The scope of services under this contract is for biohazard and trauma cleanup services at various sites within the county and the borders of the county on a time and materials basis. This agreement was awarded through a competitive procurement process. Also, it was previously awarded to Athens Biosolutions, which actually closed April 12th of this year.
Questions or comments for Mr. Matthew Lawrence from the police department? All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, sir.
And one other fiscal matter, if council could turn to page 20, do fiscal matter 5 and call it Mr. Keith Dorsey. I know we're skipping around a little bit, so good afternoon, Mr. Dorsey. Page 20, fiscal matter 5.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. This is a request for approval of 2 on-call contracts for electrical services, one with Action Electrical Contractors, the other is with Crown Electrical Company. There will actually be a third company that we'll bring you in October when we finish getting all the paperwork signed. These are for services with for a 1-year period of time with the possibility of 4 1-year extensions as well as a possible 120-day extension. The not-to-exceed amount for that entire 5-year, 4-month period is $4,140,000.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Dorsey on fiscal matter 5? Well, that was easy. Thank you.
Okay, all right. There was a question.
You want to do the one question on the auditor question?
Just
Let's
want
do
to clear
it.
Yeah, I'll just clear up. In terms of the nature of these on-call contracts are that it saves the county money to be able to, and time, to be able to process them. So we don't go out for individual bids. There's a rotation of the contractors, and the information, the cost summary for each project is reviewed by staff and then reviewed by supervisor of that staff person to still make sure that the county's getting its best deal. Okay.
Other questions or comments from the council?
No, sir.
All righty. Thank you. I appreciate you bringing up the auditor question. Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Okay, before we continue, I know on my bill with Councilman Jones, we do have one public speaker, And so we'll just call up Mr. John Ripley. John, you still here? If you want to come on up, you got up to 3 minutes to speak on Bill 50-17. It's always good to see you, Mr. Ripley.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the council. While we welcome the relief at the detention center, the much-needed relief, we're opposed to this bill as written without regular 6-month checks. As written, this is a blank check with a very real accountability issues, as well as a platform for abuse, including doing away with good, full-time merit system jobs. We want to fix at the detention center, not a Band-Aid or not a bandage. This bill has a real negative, could have some real negative effects of skewing the pension system without with the loss of new employees who would be paying in 10% into that pension system, as well as the announcement alone at the detention center has hurt morale. Several officers have indicated they intend to aggressively pursue other employment, and some have already quit as a result of the loss of these specialized posts. And more importantly, these part-time retirees, again, while we welcome the relief in the interim, they are limited, they are minimally trained, and it can only work in a very limited capacity. And it cannot be disputed without fully trained, fully certified correctional officers fully staffing the facility. It will only reduce the detention center's ability to respond to emergencies at the facility. So all we're asking for is regular and ongoing checks, not that this can be a blanket non-reviewable process.
Councilman Jones.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ripley. Really appreciate your comments, and we hear you, and we'll be taking that under advisement. We'll be talking about it. We had already discussed some possible changes to the bill, and we will certainly take what you said under advisement and see how it works out and keep you informed.
Thank you.
We share your concerns.
Yeah, I'd echo Councilman Jones' comments that we definitely want to make sure the pension is sound, so we would have a lot of people paying into the pension to keep it safe, and so we definitely, I think we all share that concern, and, we're looking at different amendments. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Ripley. Good to see you. All righty. Continue to skip around. How about we turn to page 23, Resolution 73-17. Councilman Marks?
This resolution makes a modification to the Perry Hall Commercial Revitalization District in the vicinity of Bel Air and Joppa Roads.
And Councilman Marks, my only question would be, is this something that you work with Department of Planning, or are they supportive of it?
I will work with them. I think they've seen the resolution. I'll be happy to work with them between now and the voting session.
Any other questions or comments from the council? All righty. Let's turn to page 4, Bill 47-17. Councilwoman Almond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bill 47-17 is about pension reform. We have an obligation to protect our county employees, and pension reform is fundamentally about getting the basics right in county government. And in many ways, it starts with having a higher standard for Baltimore County government. And this legislation, I believe, is an important step towards pension reform that prevents waste and fraud. We also have an obligation to be more efficient and effective in county government, and that's what this pension reform bill will have us do. Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments from the council for Councilwoman Almond on this bill?
Mr.
Councilman
Chair,
Couch?
not necessarily, you're not a lawyer, as I'm not a lawyer. But I do have a question for the legal staff. One of the things we don't want to see is we don't want a situation where the county is going to be sued because of something that the council does and spending tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars on legal fees. We have a letter from Mr. Petticord that where he expresses concerns about whether or not this idea of eliminating what he calls vested interest, vested interest, that it could lead to a court suit, et cetera. I have a letter from Mr. Racine where, have you seen that letter? Okay, in the second paragraph, he says, based on recent IRS guidance, this constitutes a sham retirement. And what he's referring to is people that the same day switch from one to the other. Like in this situation, you're, let's say, a member of the county council, and then the next day you are an employee of the county, and you get this added retirement bonus, whatever you want to call it. So anyhow, he says, a sham retirement system was not a bona fide separation of service. IRS private letter ruling number 2011470038. In that case, the employer allowed certain workers to return to employment immediately after their retirement, and the employees would be paid for their deferred retirement benefits after they actually retired. And according to this individual, that's called a sham retirement, and so this benefit was struck. And this seems to conflict with what you had written, where you're saying this is a vested benefits, in essence, that people who, I don't know, it's been the last 7 years or 5 years or 3 years, that this was passed by the council, and these are vested benefits. So this seems to be conflicting. The other thing I noticed is one of the former county council members, and I don't know if he shared it with all of the members of the council, has, and I have it here somewhere, this individual's switching from county council to one of the county jobs, and he has the separation date from the council as December 5th. I thought it was December 1st that this new council took office. So why would that, I just don't understand the dates on the document. Now this person started their job December the 6th. So it seems to me from the 1st to the 6th, this person was unemployed. What is the situation? I know I asked you a lot.
I'll be glad to take a look at the letter you referred to. I haven't seen that. But as for the date of separation, I haven't seen that document either. The term of office for this council began on the first Monday in December of 2014. Whatever date that was, I don't know, whether it was the 1st or the 5th. But that's when the term begins. As for the letter, I'll be glad to take a look at it. We've undergone this analysis on many occasions with regard to the vested rights of employees and retirees under the pension system. There's a long line of cases which I reviewed for Mr. Quirk in the letter. The law office has done the same analysis. We did it in 2007. We did it again in 2010. It's fairly settled law with regard to under the contract clause of the U.S. Constitution. Those who are in a pension system and who vest in the system and who reach those designated contingencies for retirement, once they reach those retirement contingencies, are vested, and those rights cannot be taken away from them. It's the same analysis we did in 2007 to ensure that employees and retirees were protected when the pension system was changed, and again in 2010. I'll be glad to look at the letter
Okay,
and
I'm going-
see what he's got to say.
Yeah, here's the letter. Can you just review for me very quickly how this retirement situation, it was passed by the council, what year, and what was it part of a pension bill? Was it
Bill
a
47
separate bill?
Bill 47, Mrs. Ullman's bill, proposes to repeal a section of the pension article, 5-1-306, which was added to the article in 2010. I think it was Bill 50-10, which was a part of the budget package for that year. It was a it was a comprehensive bill to amend the pension system once again. And 2007 was the first amendment to the pension system, a substantive amendment. 2010 was the second one. Somewhat less substantive, it affected some of the retiree benefits, future retiree benefits, increased the contributions that all employees pay to the system. And there were a series of amendments dealing with IRS requirements to conform the pension law to the IRS requirements. And this particular section was also added to the bill by amendment, a series of amendments, including this amendment. So that was Bill 50-10.
So in 2007, was the denominator 70 pension system created?
Yes, that's when, in effect, a separate pension system was created for employees for persons who became employees after July 1, 2007.
So this is
different standards, different requirements for retirement eligibility.
So this happened then, what this bill addresses happened in 2010, again, is what you're saying.
What this bill addresses is a section that was placed into the law by a bill passed in 2010.
Now,
Yes.
it was not part of the, Jim Smith was the county executive, was it part of the package that he introduced?
Yes. It was part of the package introduced by the administration. The amendment was not a part of the package.
Not part of it.
Correct. The amendment
That was
was
the
made.
council.
That was the council amendment.
The amendment was, okay. Okay, thank you very much.
And
Councilwoman Bevins?
And I would just like clarity from Mr. Petticord that vote in 2010, the date was not this council, was the previous council.
The previous council, yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Jones.
Yes, I find it very necessary to, I guess, speak up a little bit, because I hear words, and I don't want there to be any misconception by anyone, but when I hear words like fraud or sham, I can't help but stand here and speak up for the people that are receiving the benefit. And one of the facts of the matter is these people have worked for in excess of 16 years, in some cases 20 years, for the county government. And we can debate on whether they should have received the benefit at this time or later, but one thing is clear: they did earn the benefit. They did put the time in and earn the benefit. And the only reason we have a separate bill is because the same law enabled us to bring on these police officers, detention center officers, and firefighters who are doing these jobs. The same law did that. So we stand here today to sort of change the benefit on some of these people that, to be quite frank and honest, these are like the elected officials. So it's easy to pick on them. But when you look at the firefighters, the detention center, the correction officers, these other people that are benefiting from it, nobody wants to harm them. But I guess felt it necessary to say that, these are honorable people. They worked hard. They earned the benefit. And me personally, I can understand why they should feel like they should be entitled to it and not lose it. And that's the only issue here today. In terms of second pension, that system is, everybody won't get a second pension. Everybody's not applying for a second pension. And quite frankly, most of them won't get a second pension. The only issue is what happens to the pension they already earned.
Mr. Chairman. Councilman Allman.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say to Mr. Jones that this legislation really only applies to certain people who have been double dipping, receiving 2 pensions and a salary at the same time. That Mr. Quirk's bill takes care of other county employees, like police officers, public safety folks. This legislation really has nothing to do with them. This pension reform is about righting a wrong that was done years ago, that this council really had nothing to do with.
Councilman Jones?
Yeah, just to be clear, I don't know if it was a
I'm going to have to be
misstatement.
clearer than you're clear then.
That's okay, that's okay. But you said employees are receiving 2 pensions and a salary. No one is receiving 2 pensions and a salary.
Yes, they are.
Today, no one is receiving 2 pensions from the county and a salary.
It depends on what your idea of is receiving. Their first pension has been placed in a savings account, and it's collecting interest, so they in theory are receiving it. They may not walk away with it until they retire, but it is being put away with them when it is their money. They are entitled to it, but they are not entitled to it until they retire, just like everyone else.
Yeah, I think, but when you say 2 pensions, it implies that they're earning 2 pensions today.
They are.
The people in question worked for 16 years, and in some cases 20 years. They've earned the pension. The question is, are they able to collect the pension when they go on to a different job? And the fact of the matter is, the different job is, in some cases, a higher job than what they had, a different pay, a different pension system. They have a right to join that pension system, but today they don't collect the pension system they don't collect 2 pensions. They are receiving the first pension because they earned it. Now, whether or not we feel like they should be able to get it now or get it later, when we look at the correction officer, the police officers, they earned the pension. They're able to collect their pension and continue to work for the county in some capacity. And we all think that that's okay. These people worked for 16 years on the council, 20 years on the council. They earned the pension. They're entitled to it. The question is, does it go into a fund where they collect it later, or do they lose it forever until they retire, again, from a separate job? That's the issue. To me, it's not really too complicated, but I can understand why people feel the way they do, and I don't like it when we say things like fraud and sham, and those things imply that, that this is some type of crime. These people worked for 16 years, 20 years. They did tweak the system, but they didn't make the system.
Yes, they did.
I mean,
They changed the law to make the system work for them. That's the whole point of this bill, is because they did change the law to make the system work for them. Other Baltimore County employees don't have the same benefit. When they retire, they get their pension. When these folks retire, they should get their pension. They should not be getting a pension in a savings account with interest accruing so that they can double dip.
Okay, so I'm going to...
We're going to disagree on this?
No, because I think it's important that sometimes it's better to pull out an example. So let's say you have a person like Arnold Jablon. So Arnold Jablon works for the county for 36 years. And then the next county executive says, I would like you to be in charge of inspection and permits. So Mr. Jablon is sitting on 36 years of service. He has a pension. He's sitting at home. Everything is great. He actually has another job. And he says, you want me to come back to the county because I have 36 years of experience and knowledge. But for me to come back to the county, I'm going to be working for half of what you're going to pay somebody else. I'm just using easy numbers. You'll pay somebody else, let's say, $200,000. Me, I'm going to lose half of that because I have a pension. Why do I want to come back? So the county says, okay, I'll tell you what. You won't collect your pension while you're working, but we will put it in an escrow and you can get it later. Will you come back to work then? The person says yes. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that experience means something. We all would not want a doctor to operate on us and it be his first operation. We all know that experience means something. So when we make these type of changes to allow someone like Mr. Jablin to come to work for us, I don't think that's a sham, and I don't think it doesn't cost the county any additional money. If it were not him and it was somebody else, we would still pay the same amount of money. In fact, when we look at somebody like Mr. Jablin, it saves the county money because he doesn't get another pension. He's working for a straight salary. He doesn't get another pension. So he doesn't need additional health care because he was already a retiree. So these things save the county money. I just don't see the fleecing. I mean, we can disagree on whether or not people should get it or not get it, but there's no doubt about it. They worked for many, many years to earn it.
Councilman Alman?
Mr. Jones, I think the difference is Mr. Jablon actually did retire. These other people did not.
Councilman Katz?
Yeah, I just want to make the point to my friend from the 4th District. When I used the word sham, I was reading a letter from a constituent. Okay, just want you to know that.
Can I add some clarity?
Councilwoman Bevins?
I guess I just wanted to be clear to everyone, when we're talking about a pension sitting in a pot collecting interest, I think folks really need to know what that interest is, and I don't think that we've been clear on that sitting up here. So if somebody has a $54,000 a year pension awaiting them, an additional $54,000 is added every single year. So that interest is $54,000 a year. So if you're going to talk about interest, let's talk about what the interest is. So $54,000 times 8 years and another job, that pension is now $432,000, not $54,000.
Exactly.
And Councilwoman Bevins?
Am I right on that
Yes.
math?
That's a lump sum payout.
Right.
Yes.
Under the drop plan, the
Under the
deferred
drop.
retirement
Right.
option.
And that doesn't include the new pension.
Councilman Katz?
Yeah, very quickly, is the money that is accumulating in this delayed retirement, is that subject to interest? And if so, how's it calculated?
I have no idea how it would be calculated. I believe there is interest on the deferral account, yes.
So is it interest that based on what the retirement system itself makes the percentage that the retirement system earns, or do we know, maybe our auditor knows what?
I can't answer that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think we need to find out if it is subject to accruing interest as to what rate it is and how is it calculated. Thank you.
Mr. Hammond? Other questions or comments from the council? Mr. Petticord, do we have any public speakers on this?
We do not.
Okay. Any other questions on this issue? Everybody good? All right. We can now turn to page 25. Ms. Van Arsdale, if we could have you come back up. Frequent flyer today. And we'll tackle the issue of Prologue, the homeless outreach program, and the grant that is proposed. County Council, page 25. And this would be miscellaneous business item number 6. And good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
The administration is requesting approval of a conditional loan of $300,000 in community development block grant funds to Prologue Incorporated to purchase their building at 609 Baltimore Avenue. For 20 years, Prologue has leased this property from the adjacent Trinity Episcopal Church and has operated a homeless outreach program from the building, offering services only during the day to homeless individuals and families, including those with children. For the past 2 decades, Prologue has performed these vital services so quietly and efficiently that most Towsonites don't even know Prologue is here. This has one downside in that many may not appreciate the critical role that Prologue's outreach program plays in implementing A Home for All, Baltimore County's 10-year plan to prevent and reduce homelessness. In this plan, outreach and engagement are key components. Prologue is a first responder, working directly with those facing housing crisis and providing the referrals and services needed to get people off the streets and into off-site shelters and permanent and supportive housing. There are many caring business owners, residents, and office workers in Towson who have seen a homeless person and want to help. Prologue, through its street outreach workers, can make that needed contact and then offer basic services in their building: a shower, a washing machine and a dryer, a meal, as well as a phone, a postal address, or a computer for a job or apartment search. These positive interactions build trust and can open another door to the important counseling and specialized case management that Prologue performs. The overall strategy to address homelessness in Baltimore County cannot be successful without this type of professional one-on-one contact and intervention. Prologue's outreach and counseling services help many vulnerable people, including children, veterans, the mentally ill or disabled, and victims of domestic violence. HUD requires jurisdictions using federal funds to engage and serve the most vulnerable homeless individuals and families first, and this is what Prologue does. Recently, Prologue worked with a homeless woman in Towson and assisted her in obtaining permanent supportive housing. In another instance, a homeless man who frequented a Towson bus stop was helped by Prologue and now is in a county shelter. While homeless services are directed throughout the county, there is a definite need for outreach services here in Towson. In the most recent point-in-time census of the homeless, 29% of the street homeless were from Towson. They chose Towson for many of the same reasons many permanent residents do. It's a safe, walkable community, conveniently served by a bus line and a public library and attractive outdoor spaces. Relocating Prologue from Towson, as some advocate, will not reduce the number of homeless in Towson. It will just limit the resources needed to help fellow human beings who are struggling with issues so devastating that they have lost a place to call home. Prologue's Outreach Center has been part of the Towson community for many years. As Towson evolves, we need to continue to work together as a community to care for and about each other. Prologue can best help us do this here in Towson at 609 Baltimore Avenue. I will be glad to answer any questions, and representatives from Prologue are here to answer anything specific to their operations.
Councilman Marks.
Thank you. Ms. Van Arsdale, Prologue has occupied the space since 2007. Do you know of any disturbances or any incidents that may have occurred here that should disqualify? 1997. 1997. That's the second time I've done that. 1997. Sorry.
20 years.
Yeah, 20 years. Do you know of any disturbances that may have occurred here that should disqualify them from receiving any further funding?
No.
Okay. In my discussions with Ms. Dubin from the Office of Law, it's my understanding that should the council approve this grant, the Office of Law can stipulate conditions into the grant agreement. We could also record restrictive covenants. This is something that we frequently do with grants. Would the Department of Planning be willing to work with my office and other stakeholders to possibly identify conditions for the grant agreement?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Couch?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we know how many homeless individuals there are in Baltimore County?
Yes, we do.
And the number is?
I need my handy-dandy cheat sheet. The total number of calls for homeless services in 2017 was 6,225.
Now, these are calls, right? I understand that the city of Baltimore has hard numbers as to how many homeless there are in the city. This
Well, the total-
doesn't seem like a hard number. You have
Well, there-
6,225
Well,
calls.
these are people that have called for services.
Are these
The
indi-
actual people, total number of homeless that were served in 2017 was 3,763.
Now, does the 6,225, were they calls from 6,225 different people?
Yes, these are unduplicated.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, okay, so we have 29% in Towson. Can you give me the top three? I assume Towson's one with 29%.
I don't have those figures.
Do you have any?
The point-in-time count is a one-day count of homeless around the county.
Do we
So the
know-
6,000 calls is the annual composition.
Do we know then in Cockeysville, that's in my district, what percent of the total homeless live in Cockeysville? What percent live in Catonsville, in?
We can break that down for you. As Ms. Mahoney said, we do a point in time, that at that point in time, these are the number of homeless people that have been identified. That is different than those that are calling in for services.
Right.
So if you would like a breakdown of that, as much as we can, we have someone on our staff who is quite efficient with numbers, and we can pull that information together for you.
Yeah, because I would think that if we're going to address the problem of homelessness and find out exactly why individuals are homeless, so, whatever they need, we need to know how many we're talking about, and we need to know where they're located as well. And it sounds as though you have a general idea, and will you please let us know sometime, in the next week or so, so we could get a general idea
Sure.
of where
Sure.
we have these issues, problems.
Well, we have them throughout the county, and we can give you an idea of where they're have the most impact.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if there's, 500 in a particular area and there's nothing there, but there's one that'll house 200 in an area that only has 4, I mean, that doesn't, so we need to make sure that we're
Yeah, and I
serving
have
the
to-
population where they're located.
Sure, we can get you that information, but you did say the word house, and I need to make it very
Understand.
clear that Prolog does not house homeless individuals.
Yeah, I didn't mean that. I was just, okay.
Councilman Marks?
Yeah, that was my question, too, how we're defining Towson, by zip code, by census tract. Yeah.
The point-in-time count is a one-day count where people, volunteers, go out across the county and actually meet homeless where they're living. So in the Towson area, they're walking around at the library, they're walking the streets. In Dundalk, they're doing the same thing. In Catonsville, they're doing the same thing. The point-in-time study, which we can get to because it's an actual report that we publish, will also then identify, when we are talking with these homeless individuals, there's a series of questions that we ask them about why they're homeless and where their last residence was, why are they homeless, what are the conditions that contribute to that homelessness. So we have all of that we can get over to you.
Okay, thank you.
And I have a question. Normally, when a 14-day notice comes before any council member, if a council member calls it up so it comes before the county council, it usually expresses a concern or opposition. Now, what I'm hearing from Councilman Marks is that he may be and I don't want to talk for you, so please tell me if I'm right or wrong, that you may be supportive of this if there's certain conditions on the grant agreement. Is that correct?
I think having conditions in the grant agreement would go a long way toward addressing some of the concerns of the community. The reason we paused the review process is to bring the stakeholder organizations together with Prologue to learn about what they did. And that discussion finally occurred last Thursday. And I think it was a good discussion. I think a lot of questions were answered. I think there's still some alternatives that are being discussed out there. But stopping a grant, I don't think necessarily indicates opposition. I think it's just saying pause the review process, bring the stakeholders in, and learn what the grant is about.
And Councilman Marks, can you delineate what conditions you're asking for? And have you had those discussions with Ms. Dubin or Ms. Van Arsdale? And if so, have they been agreed to?
I sent an email to Ms. Dubin, and I think I mentioned some of the things that were being talked about. For example, the idea of not having a residential component here. One of the things that's been brought out by the community is making sure that the property is repainted and improved. And that has been brought out by the community. I've also talked with a representative from the church about that. Those are the type of things that I think we could stipulate in an agreement if this moves forward.
Well, my question, Councilman Marks, is we have to vote on this on Tuesday. And so how do we know between now and Tuesday if there has been any conditions that have been agreed to between you and Ms. Van Arsdale and Ms. Dubin?
And we do have to include Prologue.
And Prologue, yeah. I mean, we have a very short time window to decide what we're going to do with this. So I'm just asking from a purely operational standpoint, how are we going to know what conditions have been agreed to, what haven't, with all the parties involved, and then be able to vote on Tuesday? Just a question.
Well, I would ask Ms. Van Arsdale, why would this have to be agreed to by Tuesday if we're not at that point?
I think we want to move this forward. This is part of the process. Everyone has met. I think there is, and I do not want to speak for Prologue, but I guess in some part I will. They have never operated a residential facility. They have no intention of operating a residential facility. And as far as I know, and they are here, they can speak to this absolutely, they are willing to say that. I think that came out in your meeting. The building is older. It's one of the original Towson houses. As renters, they have not invested into the exterior of that. It's generally not done. So I do know that they are anxious to improve the look of their building. The extent of how much and on what time frame, that has not been, as far as I know, worked out. I think that's something that we can. I think it's very important that we keep this on track and resolve it within this context of the review process.
And I believe the discussions over the past week have been productive, and I'm optimistic we can reach a resolution on this.
And Councilman Marks, in the interest of full disclosure, it's my understanding that there possibly might be a developer who's against this, and he might be looking at this property perhaps to want to do something different. Is that true?
Well, I'm not going to speak for that person. I think he's here in the audience. The decision really is up to the church, right? The church is selling the property. And if the developer has an alternative that helps address the homeless issue in Towson, then I think we're all ears for that. But there is a fundamental need to address this homeless issue in Towson, particularly as Towson becomes more urbanized. I encourage people to talk through these issues. I always encourage alternatives. And if that person is in the audience, I think he'll be happy to speak up about his ideas for addressing this.
Fair enough. Other questions from the council? Councilman Jones?
Yes, Ms. Van Arsdale, thank you so much for coming today and everything you do in terms of providing the best housing choices in Baltimore County. I'm just curious, they've been there for 20 years?
Yes, sir.
Absent any other requirement required by law, was there anything to preclude them from having any other type of facility they wanted in terms of overnight stay or anything during the last 20 years? Was there anything that would have stopped them from doing that if that's what they wanted to do?
They would have had to go through probably a change of use permit, depending on the if they were just doing it within their building.
Right, notwithstanding any legal, whatever legal hoops they would have to jump through, but they never asked to do that, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
And I do want to clarify, I provided the executive summary of this grant to all of my stakeholder organizations in Towson. I publicized this twice on my Facebook page as early as August 14th. So I have done my best to share information about this and objective information. So I do want to provide you, I do want to thank you for providing me with the executive summary, because that is something I have shared.
Other questions or comments from the council before we get to our public speakers? Is everybody okay? All right, we have several pages of public speakers, each of which is allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. What I would ask from all of you is if a speaker before you says exactly what you were about to say, you can always yield your time and say that my comments have already been said. Of course, you're always welcome to come up, speak up to 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, the buzzer will come off, and then I would politely ask you to yield to the next speaker, only because we have a time limitation. And so what I'll do is I will call the first speaker, followed by the second speaker. And if the first speaker can come up to, the platform, and then the second speaker, if they could sit right by Pam from the Sun. And Pam, if you want to wave, right on the hot spot, or maybe not wave, right next to Andrew Van Arsdale. And why don't we just begin? Our first speaker from Healthcare for the Homeless, Dr. Kayla Nonaran. Hopefully I got that right. And sorry, if you want to come on up, you have up to 3 minutes. And then our second speaker, Bonnie Lane, if you want to queue up on the seat close to the panel. And good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairman Quirk and members of the Council. I am Dr. Nilesh Kalyana-Raman. I'm the Chief Health Officer at Healthcare for the Homeless. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on the proposed Baltimore County Department of Planning grant to help Prologue acquire its 609 Baltimore Avenue site. Healthcare for the Homeless is a nonprofit, federally qualified health center that works to prevent and end homelessness for vulnerable individuals and families by providing integrated whole-person health care and promoting access to affordable housing and sustainable incomes through direct service, advocacy, and community engagement. Our agency has clinics in Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Hartford County, and annually treats more than 10,000 individuals experiencing homelessness. Our work in Baltimore County is vital to our mission of providing integrated whole-person care. We will soon open a significantly expanded clinic in the Eastern Family Resource Center on the campus of Franklin Square Medical Center, so that we are better positioned to meet the increasing needs of individuals experiencing homelessness in Baltimore County. But we can't and we must not work to prevent and end homelessness alone. Our staff regularly partners with Prologue, an organization which provides outreach assistance for individuals and families in need of food, clothing, laundry services, and internet connection needed to research housing and job opportunities. Prologue works closely with our agency to go out into the community and engage individuals so that they can get permanent supportive housing. It's essential for Prologue to maintain its services in downtown Towson, where it's easily accessible via mass transit and has been operating for 20 years. Their longtime presence has allowed Prologue staff to build trusting relationships with individuals experiencing homelessness in Baltimore County. And it means that when 44 people needed to escape the heat in one sweltering day in July, they knew they could find refuge there at 609 Baltimore Avenue. Their homeless outreach program has built relationships to engage some of Baltimore County's most vulnerable citizens into care. Those in need without homes know they can go to Prologue when they need help. Their work helps people like Pops, Sharon, and Robert, who lived together in an encampment for 10 years and then got housed together. Healthcare for the Homeless provided their medical care, while Prologue provided case management and linkage to housing services. This is just one example of the frequent collaboration that takes place between our agencies. Prologue provides a place for clients to go during the day when shelter programs are often closed. And when clients need medical or behavioral health care, they can refer patients to Healthcare for the Homeless. They can coordinate transportation between our sites, and they create trust with the individuals we serve. Homelessness is a symptom of poverty. It doesn't have to be permanent, and I urge you to support the Planning Department's grant for Prologue so that it can continue its necessary work in Baltimore County. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker. Our next speaker is Bonnie Lane, followed by Emily Woods. And Emily, if you want to come on down, if you're here. And good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, members of the council. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I'm a former client of Prologue, and I'm here to tell you that Prologue actually saves lives. When you're homeless, you spend a lot of time wondering where you're going to get food, where you're going to get a shower, how you're going to do anything. And the services that Prologue provides actually gives you a place where you can go, you can get your food, you can take a shower, you can do your laundry. And so by having these services in place, you can focus on getting housing. Because while you're running around trying to figure out how am I going to eat for the day, you're not necessarily going to be able to go get in line at social services because you're starving and they won't let you bring any food in. So I am fully in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Emily Woods, followed by Susan Green. Susan, you here? There we go. And good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Emily Woods, and I'm an owner at 606 Baltimore Avenue, which is directly across the street from Prologue. I'm also the president of our condo board association, so I have been deeply involved with matters of our building for many years. We came here today to get some more information on the proposed sale of the property and to provide you with some background on our experience with 609 Baltimore Avenue as its direct neighbor. 606 Baltimore Avenue, we are owners, landlords, and have employees. We have an obligation to our employees, clients, and tenants to do what is right for our property. We've spent and continue to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars improving our property for Towson and the community while we watch the property across the street fall apart. We'd like to know what Prologue intends to do to improve the property when the sale goes through. How are you going to improve Towson as we are trying to do it at 606 Baltimore Avenue? What is the plan for security? There are people wandering onto our grounds in our lobby and garage. 2 years ago, we had a gentleman living in our garage. It took at least 2 months to get the situation resolved and to get him the help that he needed without the help of Prologue, quite frankly. Our employees and renters were terrified to walk out late at night, and our only resolution was to call the police, to call 911 was the only thing that we were told. Just last night, an owner in the building called the police as there was someone sleeping in the garage when she walked to her car. We can't have individuals on our property overnight with no other options and no communication with Prologue other than to call the police. During the day, we often hear screaming and obscenity shouted as we sit in our offices or conference room and meeting with our clients. 2 months ago, a client was harassed when parking her car and was concerned about her car the entire time she was in the office. So along with the plans for improving the current property and security, how do you plan to communicate with our neighbors? Right now, we don't have a contact at Prologue or anyone to get in touch with when situations arise. The building appears to be unsupervised, and that is simply how it appears to us. We have no other knowledge than that. So I am personally, I can't speak for the building on this, not in opposition to a shelter on the property, but I am opposed to a property that is undermanaged, and that is the way that appears to us right now. We would like support. We would like to know who we can turn to when we have security episodes at our building. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilman Orr?
If someone from Prologue could please get in touch today, that would be great. So, thank you. You got it? You will? Okay. Sure. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Our next speaker is Susan Green, followed by Joe Fleur.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the Baltimore County Council, my name is Susan Green. I'm an attorney, and my office is also in 606 Baltimore Avenue. I moved there 3 years ago thinking that I had found just a wonderful little place to own and operate my business. Within weeks of my moving in, I was held hostage in my office by someone who had gotten into the building and who was demanding money because he needed to get transportation to another shelter because the Prologue was closed. That is one of many, many examples of incidents that we have reported to the police. We have had at least 4, maybe 6 calls to the police. Last night, I am the owner who came out last night to meet an inebriated gentleman located at the door of the exit to the garage. I was by myself. It was 11:30 at night. And when I screamed, he sat up and started mumbling something unintelligible. I listened to the testimony thus far about this worthy project. This is a worthy project and oh so necessary. However, people in my building, we are suffering the consequences of an undermanaged, not properly run facility. This is a photograph, because I didn't expect to testify today, I did not bring copies, but I can get it to you. This is a photograph of a gentleman who was sitting on the porch of the building, 609, passed out. When he woke up, he urinated in a cup and poured it over the balcony. I'm pretty sure that this is the restroom because people stop here regularly to urinate on the railing. And it should be noted that while it's offensive and alarming and disturbing to myself and my staff, it's even more offensive when you think that there are young children playing next door in close proximity to this property. I have no opposition to the proposal of what could be and what should be to help the homeless. I'm a great supporter of the homeless. I have been a public defender. I have volunteered for HANA, for domestic violence victims. So in theory, it's wonderful. In application, it is poorly run, it is mismanaged, and I was told by the police last night, and have been told on several occasions now, to please call them when I'm leaving my office in the evening so they can escort me to my car. I did not buy a property in Baltimore County. As Councilwoman Almond stated, this is one of the best-run counties that there is. And I did not buy a property here so that I had to be escorted by the police to my car in the evenings. So respectfully, I believe it's just not timely. Get the bugs worked out, and then I will also be in support of it. But at this point, I cannot.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joe Floor, followed by Rabin Belay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. Council members, my name is Joe Fleury. I'm a local resident. I live within a quarter mile of the facility here at 609 Baltimore Avenue. I came today to express my concern with the hastefulness that this proposal has been presented to the community, with the lack of information provided and what seems like due diligence that this is the proper location for this money to be invested on behalf of the taxpayers. My concern lies not with the efforts of the organization. I think it's a noble cause. I think, as many have already stated, that it is a problem that needs to be addressed within the community. My concern is the potential long-term impact and the lack of information that has been provided to the community. My concern is that this is not the highest and best use of this piece of real estate in Towson. The proposal calls for long-term investment in a program that provides services to citizens with severe and persistent mental disorders and substance abuse disorders at a location that is directly adjacent to a daycare facility and across the street from an elementary school. I understand that they currently provide these services on a limited basis, and they have done so for many years. However, the community has been provided no information on what the plan for services is going forward and any potential future developments at the site. Investment into the core of downtown Towson should be done with thoughtfulness and clear direction. I sit here today not to imply that these folks don't deserve help and the service that Prologue strives to provide. I rather sit here to say that the investments into the core of Towson need to be made with diligence and transparency and with the concern for the bigger picture of the overall master plan for Towson. I'm all for investing in this organization. I just want to make sure that it's done at the right location and through a thoughtful process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Raymond Belay, followed by Wayne GSO. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Marks for inviting us here today so we could have an opinion. It was with very short notice that we received a letter and found out about this proposal. But on short notice, I'm here. My family owns a property right on Joppa Road, 104 West Joppa Road. And Immaculate Conception has been my parish for my entire life. I grew up in that neighborhood. I don't believe there's anybody that knows that neighborhood any better than I do. And this is not a judgment on Prolog and their position and their, what they want to do. But as far as the community is concerned, two people prior to me just spoke that, these are the men and women that utilize the Prolog program. These are very desperate people, and some of them are mentally disturbed. And to have it right next door to a preschool, and then Immaculate Conception has their preschool and daycare, I think exposing that element to these young kids, I mean, how many children need to get hurt before you say this is a bad idea, we should move? And quite frankly, the building is too small. I mean, there's no room for expansion. I mean, what's the long-term thing on this? I think there's a more suitable place within Towson, especially with all the vacancies in Towson, that just to pick this piece of property without having other options and seeing the full plans is, I think we should have some more information before moving along with this. And as I understand, Prolog is not a government agency but an independent company, and I don't see where giving them $250,000 is really appropriate. I mean, they run a business. Nobody gave me any money when I started working for myself, and why are we giving them $250,000?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I do think there are issues that we can talk about. I do want to say in defense of them, I've never heard any issues dealing with children in the years they've been in operation. A lot of the other issues you do raise, I think are very valid, but I did want to speak to that point.
Thank you, Mr. Boulay. Our next speaker is Wayne Gioso, I see up here, and then followed by Pastor Sarah Lee. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, County Council. By way of introduction, my name is Wayne Gioso. I'm a longtime citizen of Towson. I grew up in Towson. All the schools that I went to, you can walk to from here. I'm a business owner in Towson and a property owner, and I believe I'm the developer, real estate developer that was referred to earlier. There's obviously no consensus on this issue. I think there's people on both sides of the fence on this. Some people want Prolog to get a grant and be in this building, and some people do not want Prolog to be there and be in that building. I think what there is consensus on is that there's homelessness in Towson. And as citizens of Towson, I would hope that we could have a consensus that it's our duty to us, to our neighbors, to future generations to help the homeless. So, to that end, I have a proposal that I believe will bring everyone together. I believe that everyone in this room I could get behind what I'm about to say, because I believe that we should help the homeless. I believe that it should be a holistic approach. I believe that that person on the bench who is homeless should get new clothing, they should get an interview, they should get a job, they should get housing, and they should be able to reach their full potential. I believe a Band-Aid approach is not the correct approach. So I understand that Prolog has been in that location for 20 years. My proposal will guarantee funding for the homeless situation forever. And how do we do that? This property in Towson was rezoned by the county a few years ago for high-rise development. This arguably is a very valuable piece of property, and I think when the county rezoned it, and the county planners are here today, they had in mind perhaps the properties in this area will be redeveloped, and I think that's what people have talked about, a rising tide in Towson. So my proposal is very simple. I propose to take that piece of property, and as the church, Towson Episcopal Church, has told me, their mission is to get some money for their church and to have the mission of homelessness met in Towson. So here's how we do that. I believe that we should put a task force together of concerned citizens in Towson. We should have stakeholders, we should have people who live here, and I think we should think big, okay? I think we should look at this issue holistically, and I think we should have an ecosystem that will help the homeless get off of that bench and reach their full potential. So how do we fund this? You need money to help the homeless, okay? So we can't...
Can you finish? Yeah,
finish. If you could finish your...
Does everybody want to hear it? All right, so here's the proposal. So I propose that we create this task force with 3 goals. One is that we will find another location for Prologue in Towson that will help the homeless in a holistic way, okay? Not 3 days a week, but really let's help the homeless, okay? The second goal would be to have the same task force develop a development plan for that particular property so that the community comes together. Unlike other issues, I think we could have an enormous force. We could have all the people on one side saying that's what this property should be. Then I think this task force will create a charitable organization with the sole purpose of helping homelessness in Towson. All right, so how do we fund it? I propose that I will purchase that property from the bank, from the church. Okay, well, I know.
Please continue.
Please hear me out. I'm going to purchase that property from the church. I am then going to donate that property to this charitable organization that is set up by concerned citizens. Then this group of concerned citizens who create a development plan for this property, they figure out what color it's going to be, how big it's going to be, what it's going to be, and then, with the help of many others, we will then sell that property to I'm not a ground-up developer, so to speak. I don't build buildings, but we will sell it to a developer. People will come in and give presentations. We'll find the proper developer to sell it to, except, here's the pearl, we don't sell it to that developer. We lease it to them with a ground lease. Now, what that does is that will create a cash flow forever to this charitable organization with the sole purpose of helping homeless in Towson. Could be $50,000, $70,000, $100,000 per year forever. So that property could actually become this gold mine that will help homeless in Towson, period. But we'll do it in a location that everyone agrees to, that is a holistic approach, and I think will actually help our goal of helping the homeless in Towson. So that's my proposal. I have a fact sheet that has many other facts, and I believe that that proposal could bring everybody together.
Councilman Katz.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gioso. I obviously, words and deeds are, well, I don't need to say any more than that, but I do want to ask you, I do know that you are very concerned about the plight of people and you want their lives to be improved. Will you please tell the council and the people in the audience about your involvement in a very successful program to provide quality education to individuals who live in areas with schools that aren't real successful?
Well, I don't know that this should be about me, but I appreciate that question. But I do have a background in not only helping the homeless in Baltimore City through St. Ignatius Church, but helped to start a school called Cristo Rey Jesuit High School, which I'm a benefactor, and was chair of the board for 4 years. And Cristo Rey is an institution that is for students who are under the poverty line, and we supply them a free education. And 100% of the students that have graduated from our school, approaching 500 students over the last 7 years, have gotten into college, and we've gotten them college scholarships. So that's just one of many things that I've been involved in that I have actually, I won't say mastermind, but I was intimately involved in that, and it's a successful program. And if anyone has any interest, I can certainly talk about many others, when, not in this forum. I don't know if this is the right place for that. But I do have experience in this, and I have experience solving problems. And I think that, the Trinity Episcopal Church desperately wants this mission to continue. And if someone buys that property that just develops it, well, that just develops it. And it creates taxes, okay? But those taxes don't necessarily go to the homeless. And what I'm proposing is something that will be a cash flow for going towards the homeless in Towson forever.
Councilman Katz?
Just very quickly, I don't know who is here on behalf or who can speak for Prologue when I'm assuming they're going to testify.
They will.
I would hope that the proposal that Mr. Gioso made, it needs to be taken seriously. He's a man of his word. I know that. So if you would please indicate whether or not you'd be willing to work with him for, sounds like, a permanent solution to the problem. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Almond?
Yes. Well, my proposal, to give you more details, would be that they would stay there doing the same service without interruption until this task force, and I don't know who it would be, somebody other than me, would need to lead this effort and create this task force of concerned citizens. And I think that group would then, once they determine where this holistic center should be to really help the homeless, then Prologue could move into that with enormous funding. Now, Prologue could stay in that property, and I'm willing to buy it and let it sit there, and however this works contractually, but I will donate that property. I will purchase it and donate that property as soon as the solutions are found by the task force. So Prologue would not have any business interruption whatsoever.
And Mr. Yost, I wanted to thank you for coming in and to the crowd out here. I know the 3 minutes, Mr. Yost is a key, part of the discussion with Councilman Marks on this issue. I did want to just state one of my concerns is, from my experience politically, and also being the councilman in Catonsville that took a temporary homeless shelter and made it permanent, it's pretty difficult to find locations in Towson for homeless shelters. It's also pretty difficult to find locations for salt domes and for landfills. And if you can find me a couple of locations in Towson that we can put homeless shelters, I would really entertain that. Respectfully.
No,
And I did want to thank you, though, because I think for this group here, we do need business owners, successful business owners like Mr. Gioso. I see several other successful business owners in this crowd. We do need to find a way we can really work together, because I think the solution is with all of us. So I do respect what you're trying to do.
Thank you.
And in no way am I trying to suggest otherwise. And I do think we need creative thinking. I just think it's very difficult to find locations, really difficult to find locations for homeless shelters and for other things as well. So that's one of the challenges I see, respectfully.
Yeah, I want to thank you.
I would agree with that, but I think if I could create a cash flow of $50,000 or $100,000 forever, I think that would go a long way towards finding another location, as opposed to them constantly having to get grants from the government.
No, I appreciate the creativity. I do.
Yeah.
Did you want to say
Just-
something?
just echo what you said.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I thank you for coming. I really
Thank you.
appreciate
And
it.
I have a handout that I prepared if anybody's interested, if they'd like to see the full details of this.
Thank you, Mr. Yosa. Thank you. All right. Our next, can I say? Our next speaker is Pastor Sarah Lee, followed by Franklin Baker. Pastor Lee cannot attend? Okay. I'm sorry. I know the time is late. Our next speaker is Franklin Baker, followed by Christopher Jakubak, if I said that right. And good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Council members. I am Franklin Baker, the President and CEO of United Way of Central Maryland. Very good to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to really stand up on behalf of this organization that we've been talking about for the last several minutes, Prolog, Inc. Also, I'm happy to be here to serve as a voice for our fellow citizens of Baltimore County who need us most. We have proudly supported Prolog as a partner agency and through grant allocations for the past 10 years or more. Let me also state emphatically that to the extent that any upgrades to the property are needed to move forward with this grant process, United Way, along with our many volunteers, will be happy to step in and assist with painting, to assist with upgrades, to seek funding by our wonderful supporters to ensure that this property is first rate. This support that we have, first and foremost, is grounded in their mission, which aligns with our mission, which is to create an opportunity for those who suffer and for those who have no place to call home. So our advocacy and our endorsement of Prolog is also based on their proven success. Our grant application process is deliberate, is thoughtful, and it mandates and it rewards the agencies and the organizations that we work with, that they effect really concrete and meaningful and quantifiable changes in our region. So year after year, Prolog delivers, and we're so thankful for this. They deliver on solid outcomes that clearly reform things that are happening here in Baltimore County for the most vulnerable among us. They reflect client improvement. They reflect clear progress towards every single thing that we require for our grantees, specifically helping the grantees to work with their clients to achieve greater independence. So the existing site is ideal. It's easily reached by public transportation. It's fully accessible to those with a range of disabilities, as we all know. A stable and self-sufficient life, a hot shower, clean clothes. Almost everyone in this room often takes these basic necessities for granted. So the possible loss of Prolog's Towson location would have life-damaging consequences for its clients, and it would send a false signal that their lives are of lesser importance than other county citizens. And so its loss would have a punitive effect on those that it serves every single day and place oppressive burdens upon those who already carry the crushing weight of homelessness. So United Way and many of our corporate donors are longstanding supporters, like some who are here today. We have Care First represented, Constellation, MedStar, T. Rowe Price, and several others in the room today. We sincerely hope the council will approve the county grant to Prolog so that it can continue to remain in its current location. Why? Because basic needs should not be hopes and dreams. Thank you for your time and
Thank
attention.
you. Thank you. Councilman Katz?
Yes, quickly, can you tell me what the grants are per year from all these groups you mentioned? And number two, please keep your mind open to new ideas. And you know, I think you heard Mr. Gioso talk about.
I heard him very clearly.
His history of helping people. So just the question about the how much money, how much of grants do you?
So we fund hundreds of agencies every year, and the grants can run from $7,500 to more than $50,000, depending upon the nature of the grant.
Sure.
And so every year they have to apply.
Yes.
And based upon their proposal and based upon the evaluation of our various partnership boards, we have 6 partnership boards, 1 representing each county. And of course, we have a partnership board here in Baltimore County. And they review the application. If it's an ongoing provider that's providing excellent service, then we will review if the previous funding, let's say it's $15,000, if it's worthy of going to $25,000. If it's $50,000, it's worthy of going to $75,000, based upon, again, the outcomes, the metrics that they're hitting every single year. That is the modus operandi for our evaluation of the proposals by the prospective providers.
So how much last year? Do you
I don't
know?
I don't top. Do we have that number? Yes. Okay.
What is your yearly budget? Okay, thank you. But is that a countywide? I don't. Is Prolog? You're talking about $6 million for that one location? No. Okay. How much for that one location? Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Almond?
If we were to go the task force route, if that were something that the community would be encouraged to do and they would like to be involved in, I would encourage you to be on that task force. I think you'd be incredible.
I thank you for that, Councilman Almond, but I am very, very much opposed to delay on this.
I get it.
And I think there are many, many reasons, some of which have been articulated, but I think if that were the case, certainly we'll look at that, but I think we are very, very much strongly in favor of moving forward.
Councilman Jones.
You know, first of all, thank you so much for coming in. And I really appreciate the offer that was made. And I was sitting here thinking, nothing would preclude that plan from moving forward if they were to purchase the property. The only difference would be maybe the cost of settlement cost. But you know, if they were to purchase the property, there's nothing that stopped that plan from moving forward. So if this were to move forward, I hope that plan would still, and that offer would still be on the table.
Yes.
Thank you. All righty, moving forward. Christopher Jacobleck, followed by Donna Jansen. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Jakubiak. I'm a principal of Jakubiak and Associates. We're a town planning firm here in Towson at 100 West Pennsylvania Avenue. We work for towns and cities and counties, developers, nonprofit, community groups, on all matters of planning and zoning. And this is a planning and zoning question. It's a land use issue. I've been in practice for 25 years, and I've had occasion to deal with this very issue in 2 separate locations over the past decade. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Gioso with Mid-Atlantic Properties. I think his idea deserves real examination. And we deserve time to think through these ideas. And his ideas are ones that other developers, other community members, and business communities have worked through in other locations. In fact, in the community of Lexington Park in southern Maryland, St. Mary's County, a consortium of business people, too, decided to work this situation out and it struggled with the same issues. Baltimore County has a plan for housing. It's called a Home for All. It envisions a system of permanent housing and complementary services, a housing-first approach, a move away from just shelters and the management of the problem. It's a 10-year program, and we're 4 years into it and making progress. But a guiding principle of that plan states, we will come together as a community to implement the plan. It goes on to say that the plan is a community effort and will only reach its goals through joint partnerships and collaborations. That's the county's homeless plan right there, with service providers, faith leaders, business leaders, consumers, and community members. Now, this hasty decision on this grant, which may lead to the development of a homeless shelter or other facility, or maybe just the continuation of the services there, we just don't know. It has not yet benefited from the thoughtful consultation with the community. Decisions that impact land use without public input crush the interest of citizens, property owners, and businesses, their interest in having an impact on their own community and their concern for what occurs in their neighborhood. 3 of the county-owned facilities are part of major institutional settings: the Family Resource Center at Franklin Square, the Westside Men's Shelter at Spring Grove, and Sarah's Hope at Hannah Moore in Reisterstown. These are centers that are set in institutional settings where the continuing care that addresses both the reasons for homelessness and the consequences of homelessness can be addressed. That's not the case in an urban location. The downtown model of homeless shelters is passé. We're moving to a different approach as embodied in the county's plan. So I'd encourage you to pause on this grant, think through an approach that is more responsive to the interests of the entire community, not just this particular service provider. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Crandall?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a question for Ms. Van Arsdale. You had mentioned earlier, when asked about the time frame for the grant, you said, well, we'd like to get it moving. I understand that. But these grant periods have a deadline, do they not? Okay. My question just stems from the fact that we have some big ideas being talked about, and big ideas take a while to come to fruition, and we're voting on this in a week. So I don't know how. I think that some of the ideas have some merit. Mr. Gioso's idea has some merit, but I don't know how we do that in a week and tie up this organization without their funding for. I don't know how we get all this done in a week.
Do you have anything? All righty.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We have more speakers, a fair amount more. So our next speaker is Donna Jansen, followed by Josh Gleakin.
I'm Donna Jansen, a condo owner at 606 Baltimore Avenue, and I concur with what my former speakers have said about the problems we've had with the tenants or the organization Prologue at 609. I've been in that building for 20 years, and I cannot even begin to tell you how many times I tried to call Prologue, could not get an answer, could not get a reasonable dialogue as to what was going on with that organization based on the public urination we were seeing of the people who lived there, the droppings of what under the porch, and 10 minutes later somebody coming to pick it up, obviously a concern because it was suspicious, called the police a number of times and got nowhere. The police were good in walking me to my car, just like the other lady had said, because there were, at 6 o'clock, after the doors were shut or they were put on the street and we left the office, if our door wasn't locked at that time, they would scoot in, find a way to hide in bathrooms, and then we come out of our office and we're confronted with them, and they were from right across the street, was identified. And so when I hear of all the wonderful things Prologue is doing for these individuals, I wonder which organization are they referring to? It wasn't what I saw. And I am totally in support of the homeless and the psych rehab, whatever we need. I just do not think that is the appropriate place, as because of the two schools, the daycare and the public and the Catholic school, as well as the problems of coming and going from the people. So I thank you, and I think some of the ideas, I wonder why it has to be made, the decision has to be made in a week, because this is major, affects many, many people, and I suggest it be researched.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jansen.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Councilwoman Bevins?
I don't know if Councilman Marks can answer this question, or maybe somebody in the audience. We're talking about two churches and a daycare. Is there anyone from the daycare here in opposition of Prologue? Or is there letters of support from the schools, the churches, or opposition? So everybody has a lot to say about the church and the daycare, but they're not here?
There's a representative of the church who's going to speak.
Okay, but there's nobody here in opposition from the daycare. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Bevins. Our next speaker is Josh Gleakin, followed by Jason Vittori. Sure, to Mr. Bostwick. It's always good to see you, Mr. Gleakin.
Nice to see you. Thank you for hearing me. It's nice to be talking about something other than a gas station.
That is a true statement.
From the broad community perspective, just further following that discussion, I mean, I've never heard of an issue with the school or the daycare. I mean, I can't pretend to sit here and say there is one because I've never heard of one. Certainly, if there were problems there, we would have heard about them. I live in West Towson, for everybody. We're the community right across from Bosley Avenue. We're about 800 homes. And the gentleman who just stood up is a resident of West Towson who's going to testify on behalf of Trinity Episcopal. I know on behalf, Dennis Robinson's a friend of mine, and I respect him greatly. The suggestion I just passed out some photographs that I took just the other day. Our office is right there. The house really is in deplorable condition. It's not a repainting that's needed. The soffit's rotting. The porches are rotting. The siding's falling off. It hasn't been painted in a long time. I remember walking by there with our young kids. They didn't want to walk by that house because they thought it was haunted. It's, picket fence is missing. It's got, rusty, pretty nasty looking, and the pictures don't do it justice. So that's really what our perspective is, and it's heartwarming to hear that the United Way and other partners really want to make this thing a beautiful property. And that's what we're interested in. Clearly, there's some security issues I didn't know about with the business owners, and I think we have an obligation to them to hear them out and see if we can work something out there. There's an interesting proposal on the table from Mr. Gioso. I think we should hear that out. I don't see them having to move out. Trinity Episcopal's not kicking them out if this thing is delayed a little bit of time to work it out. And I don't, on behalf of communities, want to install this thing to try and kill the project. We want to make that house look beautiful. I mean, we want a house that looks, for the long term, looks beautiful. So we want some real, we want covenants, or we want some sort of plan that is required to make that house, to bring that house back to the glory it was in when people lived there, when it was a residence, and to make sure that until the keys are turned over in 15 years, right, if the services are provided, that house continues to be maintained in accordance with a set of standards. All this assumes, of course, that Mr. Gioso's plan doesn't work out, but if it doesn't, that's what we as a community really are focused on, that it needs to work for Towson, and to work for Towson, it cannot continue to be in a state of deplorable condition. And for the county to invest public money, even federal or not, for federal or public money to be invested in that, there really needs to be some standards to keep this, to fix it up substantially. You're talking $100,000 in renovations it needs, not just a bathroom floor. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Katz?
Yes, just Mr. Gioso, yes or no? If you were to purchase the property, it takes 5 years, 10 years to find an appropriate location, another location in Towson. Would you spend money to improve the exterior of this building? Because you can just answer yes or no. Okay.
That's an honest answer. I mean, that's a hard question. We spend money on good. It's hard. That's honestly, it's a difficult question to answer. All right.
Okay. I have a comment.
Thank you.
All right. Councilwoman Bevins?
Yes, I would just like to make a comment. Looking at these pictures, I would agree with you, Josh, that it's not in the best shape. But I guess my question would be, as a resident of Towson or any community association that may be in the audience, had you ever called code enforcement with concerns about this building prior to the prologue contract?
Well, yeah, the thing is, our neighborhood association calls code enforcement a lot. We get very little enforcement.
But have you ever called on this particular property?
We have not. Personally, I have not called code enforcement before. Quite frankly, I mean, we put in a lot of time and there are a lot of problem properties around Towson.
So you don't consider this a problem property?
I do consider it, but I think the fact that the addition of the expenditure of public money to gift it to somebody, and the fact that we're willing to talk about some conditions and covenants that run with that, brings in this need. There are a lot of properties and a lot of businesses in Towson, quite frankly, successful businesses who haven't cleaned up their act around this town. But if we're talking about spending $300,000 of public money and handing over the keys, I think that we're going to say, wait a minute, this building needs to be an example of a philanthropic organization that also is not an eyesore in Towson. That's the public benefit, and also apparently has some security issues.
And I'm not disagreeing with anything that you just said.
Sure.
My point was just that if the condition of this building was never an issue for anyone prior
Well, it was, but sort of under the general, I mean, code enforcement can only do so much,
The code
right?
enforcement would write citations for this.
They very well may, you know, I mean, and I don't want to bash code enforcement, but you raise a good point. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
I have a question for Ms. Van Arsdale. Ms. Van Arsdale, the $300,000 loan that we're talking about, that will only be used to purchase the property itself for continuity of services. Is there any grants or any other money out there that can be used to also clean up the property? But nothing yet that's secured, or nothing yet that's like under negotiation or anything, right? That's fair. Right. No, I understand that. That's exactly right. Councilman Couch?
Yes, for the CEO, or I forget what your title was, okay, I'm sorry. Do you have plans to rehab the building if you should buy it? I understand.
But is there a budget?
Yeah.
Is there a budget?
Are there any concrete plans to improve the building?
Councilman.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gleek. And in the interest of time, we're at 4:15. We still have maybe a dozen speakers. Jason Vittori, let's keep it to 3 minutes, and let's move this along. We are always here after the work session. You can always contact us anytime. Jason.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. As you said, my name is Jason Vittori. I'm here in my capacity as the president of the Greater Towson Committee. The GTC, as you're all aware, speaks out in support of projects like Royal Farms and other things that I think are commercial-based and are going to add to revitalization. I think initially the concern I heard from some of our membership was perhaps this might not jive with the future of revitalization for Towson. And we weren't saying it's not a use that isn't valuable in Towson, but perhaps there's a better location. And then in speaking with Mr. Gioso, some ideas were kicked around, and I'm kind of here in that capacity. Now, I kind of delved into a few things. One is this 14-day rule. I think first notice I got was August 4th, and I want to commend Councilman Marks on notifying us that he in fact got this, because otherwise nobody in our community would be made aware. And I think this organization, the GTC, I'm starting my second year in the presidency of it, you know, one of our biggest complaints is not a lot of stuff's been shared with us. So there's a lot of things happening in Towson, and we really, you know, represent property owners and other business interests in the area. And what we're looking for is a little bit of transparency and a little bit of involvement where we get to have a say in what's going on. And I can certainly, you know, I glean from what you said, Mr. Chairman, as far as expanding the use out in Catonsville. I certainly know on fiscal matters 4 and 5 from the July 3rd council meeting, there was involvement of funds being given to the Catonsville facility being, which you said was a temporary facility and turned into a permanent facility. And I get that it's far easier to say, we're just going to go ahead and, you know, build where it is already because it's so much more difficult to find somewhere else. And I can appreciate that. But I think to a certain extent, what we're talking about here is, are we really that pressured? I haven't heard an explanation, even though the question keeps delicately being asked. Are we really, our backs up against the fence? I think what's going on here is the church wants to sell this property. Somebody wants to buy it, whoever it is, and Prologue wants to extend services to the homeless. Are we absolutely under the gun where if this transaction does not go through, this loan grant at this very moment, is something going to be wrong? You know, frankly, I have a problem with the 14-day rule. I thought the 14-day rule only applied to purchases under $25,000. Certainly $300,000, in my opinion, is more than $25,000. But I thought Baltimore County Code 39103 said that that was for purchases under $25,000. So when it comes to kind of working through these problems, we want to put the cart before the horse, it sounds like. We want to get the property purchased, and then we'll move on with all these other things. And you can have all your stuff, but let us purchase it first. And something about how this works, I know for 20 years it's been there, and that seems like such an easy thing to fall back on. But for Matthews 1600, they wanted, in your district, they wanted to change their zoning where they've been there 70 years, and it's been a restaurant. They wanted to change from a residential zoning to a commercial zoning so they could put a deck on their property, and nobody supported that. And I think it's been there 70 years. Why can't it continue?
Thank you, Jason. And Jason, you did mention Councilman Marks putting out a notification to the community. And I know this wasn't Councilman Marks' notification, but whoever did put out this notification, especially if they're saying they want to negotiate in good faith and they're not against the homeless, I mean, this is a notification somebody just showed me about being urgent. And for somebody to say, we're not against the homeless, but by the way, there's going to be a psychiatric rehab next to a child daycare center, Conception Church, and school. There's going to be ex-convicts and 24 residential facilities, and that just doesn't seem in good faith to me, respectfully.
You're showing something to me that, respectfully, that's not distributed by me.
No.
I did not put it together.
No, in no way did I mean that was distributed by you, but for anybody who put that out, please don't say that you're all about the homeless when you're doing a lot of fear tactics, respectfully. Thank you, Jason. All right, our next speaker is Peter Richkes, followed by Sandy Rommel.
I didn't put that out. But I didn't put that out.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, council members. Prologue was formed in 1982 to offer residential support services in the county, and they continue to focus on community-based personal recovery. Past support of Baltimore County makes me proud, and I appreciate the county and the Department of Planning explaining exactly why these services are so important. Because as we do know, all of Baltimore County benefits as the fragile conditions of this jeopardized population are improved. I urge you to protect individuals experiencing homelessness by supporting the proposed Baltimore County Planning Department grant to Prologue. The county has provided support in this manner for 20 years, and I hope to see that the county recognizes the need going forward. While Prologue provides help for the needy in Towson, they now need your support and your votes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richkes. Our next speaker is Sandy Rommel, followed by Dennis King. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the council. I'm Cindy Rommel, it's with an E, and I'm the president and CEO of Prologue Incorporated. And as you requested, I won't reiterate all of the things that we've already heard. I think that Andrea Van Arsdale talked about our mission and what we have done over the years. I guess now we come to the point where maybe I can address some of the issues that have been raised and clarify. I heard a comment about deeds versus words. People can say anything that they like. The actual action of doing for others, serving. We have been in this location for 20 years. No, we have not owned it. In order to get money to do improvements, we have to have a long-term lease. Any good business owner knows that you have to have collateral in order to get money to make improvements. I think Trinity Episcopal Church has really supported our mission, and we have both had a similar mission to service to the Towson community. So they've reached a point in time, they extended to us the offer to purchase. And with the purchase, we could move forward in seeking improvements for that location. The flyer that you've all seen is a negative tactic not to help end homelessness, to deal with a community issue that a community owns all of its citizens, the good things we do, the problems we have. That's what communities do. They rally together, and that flyer was sent to a group of stakeholders from Wayne Gioso. And I am not here to defame Wayne, but he admitted in our meeting with stakeholders that that was the way he rallied everyone to find out about this project. I know he called our office once. I was on vacation. I had 5 days of vacation this summer, and that's when this had to happen. So I apologize for that, and I just think when, and I've said this to him, I've had a couple of conversations, it is very hard for me to wrap my head around having a business partnership with someone that is going to use that tactic to talk about what my company has done for since 1982, as the woman before me so nicely stated what we have done in Baltimore County over the last years. So I think we need to tread lightly on putting a task force together that would be headed by someone that would put out a flyer like that. It just doesn't make sense to me. I heard the issues of the people living in 606. This is the first time I'm hearing this, and it is. We have a website. It has our main number. We are open 5 days a week. We even have an emergency number. By our other programs, we are mandated to have an emergency number. So you can reach us anytime. I don't know why I did not hear that. I know when I left 609 to come over here, there was someone sitting on the floor in the lobby of your building that I did not recognize, nor did any of the staff at 609. We do not have a market on all of the homeless issues in Baltimore County, nor all of the homeless people in Baltimore County. I wish that, I wish there was some magic to all of this. There is not. We serve people wherever they are. We have an outreach team that responds to police calls saying, hey, I have someone that is really in need of service. They're in the Target parking lot. Or a business owner that says, or the library saying, we have a guy here that really needs a shower and kind of scary to our patrons because of the appearance. We will go and get that person and bring them over to 609. So we're going all over the county responding to almost anything that you can imagine, and we do respond, and anyone that knows our work knows that we respond. But I can say that life goes on 24 hours a day, and in terms of security, we cannot provide security for an entire community. You go to Towson Mall, you might get shot. There are all kinds of issues in the community that are not caused by homeless people. And I think the way that I characterize a caring community is a community that looks objectively at the issues that come from just each and every little thing. One day someone is working a job, their child gets sick, they have they have to stop their jobs to be with their terminally ill child. They lose their income. Next, they lose their house. Next, their child dies. And not only are they grieving, but they have nothing left. That's one of the stories that we have heard. And it's, you know, it's not uncommon that we hear about people that have been such successful citizens and productive and the givers in the community, and now they need something in return. So anyway, let's see. We will not become a shelter. We will not become a 24-hour residential facility of any kind. When I hear about that us being at 609 might not jive with revitalization, my ears ring because I remember the revitalization in Dundalk when we had an office at Drumcastle, and I know I've used my 3 minutes twice.
If we could wrap it up.
But we had an office there. It was an office where we had a public toilet that we shared. We weren't even good enough to be there because their revitalization took on a life of its own.
Thank you.
So, do you have questions for me?
Nope. I think we're good. We have 9 more speakers, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
opportunity, and I'm available for questions.
We have 9 more speakers. Mr. Dennis King, followed by Christopher Lind Payne.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. My name is Dennis King. I'm here in my capacity as Senior Warden of Trinity Episcopal Church, the current owner of 609 Baltimore Avenue. And in the absence of our rector, who is on sabbatical, I am unfortunately, the chief. So I'm here to speak a little bit of history. Prologue has used 609 Baltimore Avenue for the last 20 years. Prior to that, it was briefly a shelter for victims of domestic abuse, and prior to that, its main purpose was as the residence for the assistant rector. When our vestry decided that we wanted to divest ourselves of properties that we didn't occupy, we voted earlier this year to sell both of those properties. One of them, a house we used as investment on Bosley Avenue, was sold, quite ironically, to Mr. Gioso. The other one was the Prologue property, and it was the unanimous desire of the vestry to make sure that the services that Prologue provided continued, so we elected to offer the property to them first. They chose to purchase it. And we want to see those services continued. Our church is all about mission. We serve with the Assistance Center of Towson Churches. We, this past Sunday, filled backpacks, over 70 backpacks, to supply school supplies to a needy elementary school in the area. But let me depart from what I'd originally prepared to tell you this. I've worked in Towson for 35 years. 5 of those years were spent at 606 Baltimore Avenue from 1985 to 1990. 609 was still being used as a residence at that time. And guess what? There were plenty of homeless. I knew a lot of them by name, used to greet them as I'd walk to the bank or to the courthouse. I've resided in Towson for 21 years, and please don't groan, I live on Morningside Drive. And I think you've heard a few weeks ago from my wife and son, now you get me. I fully support the mission of Prologue. I fully support the sale of this property to Prologue. The homeless aren't going to go away. In fact, the problem's only going to get worse because they're not going to have a place to receive services. We owe it to the most needy of our population to provide these services, and I highly support the grant that is being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christopher Lind Payne, followed by James Pine, Jr. Reverend Lynn Payne. Good evening. Good afternoon, almost evening.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Lynn Payne. I'm the rector of Epiphany Episcopal Church. That's different than Trinity and Towson, both Episcopal churches, both with those one-word names. We're just up the road in Timonium. I also serve on the board of the Baltimore County Communities for the Homeless, so this is not the first time that I've had the chance to sit in front of the county council before to give testimony on something that's very important to me with regards to homelessness in our county. I grew up in Baltimore County. I'm a product of the public school system here. This is my home. It's always been my home with exceptions. One of the past testimonies had to do with land use in Lexington Park, and I was in college in Southern Maryland during that time, and I was a part of the student team that was volunteering at the new Three Oaks Men's Shelter that was there. I also watched the affordable housing, all of the flat tops go down, and nothing to replace the affordable housing that was there. And I grieved that, and I worked with students to help organize around that, and that was close to 20 years ago. I'm very in favor of sound practices of economic and community development, but not at the expense of the most vulnerable in our county. Not ever. That said, I'm strongly in favor of the county's support for Prologue and the purchase of this property that they've been renting for 20 years this month. And I think it would be a great birthday anniversary present for Prologue to make this grant possible. I don't have a sticker on right now. I gave mine away. I've also been standing in the back, and I've watched 32 people with stickers go out. I don't have time to have everyone stand up, but you can see the stickers. We ran out of them. There's a lot of people here that are in support of moving forward with this plan with Prologue. For more than 8 years, we worked in partnership with Prologue through the Episcopal Housing Corporation's Neighbor to Neighbor program that we founded 8 years ago. That feels like a long time to me. I've got a lot more gray hair than I did when I started, but it's a drop in the bucket when compared with the 35 years that Prologue has been working in Baltimore County diligently in this work. We've heard from Trinity and the great hope and vision they have for what's possible in ministry past and ministry future, their support for that. Chairman Quirk, you brought to attention the flyer. I also saw this as well and that's one of the reasons why I'm here, because I was very, very concerned about this. Concerned about opposition that's arisen in response to this, and concerned about tactics that are used when we talk about I like this, but not in my backyard. This NIMBYism, we see it all the time in our county, in our country, in our world, and it's a challenge, and it's something we have to face. We're surrounded by these giants here, but Moses talked from Exodus and Deuteronomy, about the great commandments. The 10 Commandments: you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor, you shall not covet your neighbor's house or anything that is your neighbor's. Trinity has this piece of land that's been given to them. They want to sell it to this entity that is Prologue, that is in line with their mission. This is a great investment for the county to support the men and women and families that are most vulnerable in our neighborhoods. This isn't just a law. This is a command that's throughout the religious traditions of the world, to love our neighbor as ourselves. And I think that this is so important. When you look at the fact that Trinity was willing to rent their property for $1 annually for the last 20 years, that they're willing to sell it for $300,000 when its assessed value is at $553,000, there's a big difference between that and also what Mr. Gioso was offering to them. So we need to talk about money and self-interest and how we use creativity to really mask some of what we want to see and how we don't want to feel uncomfortable in our communities.
Thank you.
Security and safety is an issue. I understand that. But we're called to a higher standard than that. And I thank you for your courage and leadership in this time, and I hope that you will support Prologue in this incredible work that they're doing.
Thank you. I was told James Pine Jr. Had to leave and he was opposed. I'll call Joseph Warner, followed by Samuel Fern Keys next. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I am a resident of the Penthouse condominium. I've been a resident for 38 years there. I'm a member of the board. This project, the present use by Prolog has never bothered anybody at the Penthouse. We have always assumed it's part of life. We also can assume that it would expand if it becomes absolutely permanent, and we think that's an error. The development of residences in the west half of Towson, downtown Towson, has only expanded this past year with the construction of 703 Washington Avenue. For the last 40 years, those of us who are neighbors at the Penthouse were alone in all of West Towson. We want more density. We want more neighbors in West Towson. It's the way that communities develop, by having neighbors. There are many opportunities along Joppa Road, both on the north side and perhaps on the south side, perhaps this site, that could be developed for market price residences. And that would be a fulfillment of every plan and aspiration for downtown that any public groups have ever put together. If this stays, given the prejudices of people about homeless shelters, about people who are different than they are, I think that you could expect that there will be no developer that will likely cross the other side of Washington Avenue. It would be too risky to expect an important multi-million-dollar project to be in the shadow of Prolog's operation at 609. I think that a macro approach for all of Towson needs to be embraced, and a permanent facility that will handle many more people than what 609 can handle. We see homeless people all over Towson, and many of us at the Penthouse help the homeless when we can. But certainly all the homeless in Towson are not going to fit into 609. It's not even going to be a smattering. We need something more meaningful. We need to find a place that will work for all of the problems that we have and will not inhibit the growth of Towson. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Samuel Fernkeys, followed by Megan Joffrey. And good afternoon. Thank you for coming today.
My name is Samuel. I am 22 years old, and I am currently homeless. I'm this way because I was friended with the wrong crowd, and they took everything. I ended up in Towson because a friend let me stay for a few days at his apartment, but I've been on my own ever since. While I've been out, I've been lost. I didn't know where to eat. I didn't know where to sleep. I progressively became more and more stressed out. Prolog helped me alleviate some of that stress. The services they provide are not only helpful, but necessary. When in the course of human decency, it become a matter of discussion if a man could take his shower, wash his clothes, or get the help they need via a case manager. The location is convenient. It's along major bus routes, and it's very nice. Because of Prolog, I've been able to get a part-time job, since nobody wants to hire anybody with stained clothes or smells like old hot dog water. There's a philosophical theory called how is it to be a bat. In essence, it states that although we may see the bat, we may know the bat, we could even hang upside down and eat bugs like the bat. You are not the bat, so you cannot truly comprehend what it is to be. We homeless are that bat. So please keep in mind and consider all our experiences, our struggles, and realize how much better off we are because of Prolog. Inside Prolog, there are several different signs. There's a sign posted on where and when to get free meals throughout the week. They have a substance abuse sign. They have something for everybody. They have a long list of rules. There's 12 to be exact, such as no drugs or alcohol on the property, no racial slurs, so you know it's a safe environment. And I would just like to bring up that a lot of people seem to be making this a zoning and development issue. For me, it's a matter of survival. Thank you.
Thank you. After Ms. Joffrey, we do have Fred Weimert and then George Panis.
Okay.
Good
afternoon, members of council. My name is Megan Goffney. I'm the president of Baltimore County Communities for the Homeless and also the director of Homeless and Housing for Community Assistance Network. So I know that you all see us every year, as we have our homeless rally, and every year we have a cause. Last year it was the Home Act. Before that it was for health care. And as luck would have it, this year we initially didn't have, or we did not have the resources to put together our rally this year. But as they say, it's all about timing. And it was perfect timing for us to come together to rally for Prologue. And if I may, I just want to note that in a year that we're all wondering what funding will be cut to support the most vulnerable, we want to fight to support the resources that are available. I heard earlier talking about a task force and coming together to address this issue of homelessness. Baltimore County Communities for the Homeless mission is for communities to engage our diverse community in the development and implementation of action-oriented solutions which will alleviate and ultimately eliminate homelessness in Baltimore County. So we have resources that we welcome anybody, businesses in the community that can come and join this open monthly meeting to come and talk about the issue of homelessness. I also heard about the housing on 609 not being enough. As somebody that oversees the largest shelters in Baltimore County, there are folks who simply will not come to shelter. We just heard earlier about the increase of mental illness at 25%. There are folks who won't come to shelter, so we can build a building for 1,000 people and you will still have folks on the street. So I ask again, it's not always about money. It's not always about the businesses. My plea to you all is to think about the people. We can't always move them. We cannot always hide them. These folks are members of the community just as we are sitting here. So I like to say we are all in support of Baltimore County supporting Prologue to continue services. Thank you.
Thank you.
Megan, I guess I want to thank you for your steadfast advocacy on the homeless issue. Thank you very much. Sure.
After Mr. Weimert, we have George Panis, followed by Kathy Burgess, followed by Lamar Williams. And good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Quirk, members of the council. I'll read you a statement that I wrote up. It was only 2 minutes long. I'm Fred Weimert. I currently serve as the president of the board of the Assistance Center of Towson Churches, ACTC. I have been asked to speak on how ACTC has benefited from the work of Prologue. ACTC was formed in the mid-1980s with the understanding that we would help our neighbors who were experiencing emergency needs. A small number of people that we help are people who are experiencing homelessness. They're a difficult group for us to minister to because their emergency is an everyday thing. Doesn't just happen once in a while. Sometime early in the 1990s, we became aware of the work of Prologue in our community, and since that time, they have been an incredible help to us in our mission of caring. Because their street workers are a resource to our homeless people, and those with mental health and addiction issues are cared for by them. Prologue's daytime drop-in center that has been open for 20 years helps the homeless shower, get something to eat, wash their clothes, speak with counselors about housing. I've also been asked to say something to you about Prologue's work with homeless veterans. Among there are a couple of organizations in Baltimore County that have been tasked with ministering to homeless individuals in our county. I'm a veteran. Before you say thank you for your service, I want to tell you I was getting drafted. I went into the Navy. I enlisted in the Navy. Fortunately became an officer. But my enlistment did exactly what I hoped it would do. It kept me out of Vietnam, and it kept me out of combat. As a minister in Towson for 36 years, I saw a number of combat veterans in my congregation struggle with PTSD.
It's a problem that doesn't go away overnight if it goes away at all. I had one member who for 60 years following World War II would wake up 3 nights or 4 nights a week, rip the sheets off the bed, screaming and yelling, sweating through everything. It is difficult for me to say, but Bill was lucky because he had a wife and a family that loved him and cared for him. Lots of families are exhausted by this. They wear out. As the Gulf War wears on, soldiers are having more and more rotations in the war zone, and with each deployment, there is a greater chance that they will become overwhelmed by traumatic stress. There is a great need for Prolog's counselors to work with our veterans and to have a place where those veterans can drop in and feel welcome. I would also, what Megan said about the increase in number of people with mental health issues on the street, there are lots of issues out there that are just such a great concern for us. And we need to do everything that we can. Wayne Gioso is a good friend of mine. He rented our parking lot for years for my church. And I told him to talk to Dan McCarthy from Episcopal Housing because he did the work on the west side. And I think he would be a person that might be able to help us look at a way to. Capitalization is always a problem with programs like this. And it would be really good to have some creative capitalization. So if we can work together, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Our last 2 speakers on this issue are actually George Panis, followed by Kathy Burgess. George, are you here? George Panis at Charles Street? All right. Our last speaker on this issue is Kathy Burgess from Penn Avenue.
Actually, I'm from the Assistance Center of Towson Churches, and I'm here to make a statement on behalf of the new Executive Director, Linda Lotz, who is away. And I, as the former director for 17 years, who worked beside Prolog during those 17 years, wholly support this statement. I strongly support Prolog's mission in serving homeless individuals in Baltimore County. The Outreach Center is the only one of its kind in the county and has provided services in this location since 1997. We all know this from previous, that Prolog does provide street workers that go out to find the homeless in the streets. Like ACTC, Prolog operates in Towson very quietly, with minimal impact to the community. Most people do not know Prolog is even there. I was not aware. I was aware, but Linda was not, Linda Lotz, until I went to find it after beginning my work at ACTC. Prolog and the Towson Library all work to provide support and services to the homeless in the community. If operating Prolog were a problem for the schools at Trinity Episcopal or at Immaculate Conception, would it be in operation for 20 years? It seems Trinity is offering to sell the property at a reduced price to help sustain Prolog, giving Prolog the right of first refusal. This is a gift of love and a vote of confidence to sustain a needed outreach. The Assistance Center's mission is to provide emergency assistance to those in need in our community. We've been privileged to work beside Prolog for many of these years. Prolog is able to go deeper than what we can provide at the Assistance Center. We provide basic needs, food, clothing, referrals, transportation, but Prolog is able to go deeper to find the root cause of the issue and to work towards wellness. 3 days a week, the homeless can go to Prolog to eat the lunch that we give them and other food, to sit outside a while, to do laundry or get a shower. They can get clothing and socks and underwear. Meeting these basic needs leads to case management and then ultimately housing. ACTC and Prolog work together in a synergistic way for the good of our clients. So we wholly support. We hope that all interested parties coming to the County Council can remain calm and listen to each other, learn the facts, and work together for the homeless who are a part of our community. Let us understand what is real and what is imagined. Let us support those who are doing the difficult work of helping the homeless to a better life. Let us also understand and listen to those who own property and businesses in the Towson area and have concerns about the impact that the homeless can have on their lives, work, and investments. It is my hope this meeting provides a greater understanding of the organization's workings to ameliorate the lives of the homeless, to ameliorate the lives of the homeless and the poor in our area, and a greater desire to get involved and invest in supporting these to do their work effectively for the good of all. I have seen firsthand the incredible positive impact that Prologue's homeless outreach program has had for homeless individuals, families, and the community. Homelessness is a county issue, and we need this vital service. As a person of faith, I believe this is what we are called to do. Right here where we are called to provide what is needed to help people to reach their highest God-given potential. We are all lifted up as a community as all lives improve. Please vote for this funding so that Prologue can continue its outreach to the homeless in our community.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Well, that concludes our public speakers for this afternoon. But I did want to say thank all of you for coming out. The opposition, I know several people in opposition. There are people of goodwill and some concerns. I did want to ask the business community to really work with the homeless community. I mean, I really think there's power if you guys communicate and talk. I did want to recognize my predecessor, former Councilman Sam Moxley, because he was a really staunch defender of the homeless in Catonsville. So thanks, Sam. And I want to thank all the church members, too, everybody that's coming out here. I think one thing that unites, especially, I can only speak for Catonsville, but I'm sure it's around the county. I mean, I have so many Republicans, Democrats, independents, especially from the churches, coming out and speaking for the homeless and standing up. So please keep doing it. Thanks. Have a good night.